Welcome to the Octopi Trainer. The Octopi Trainer allows you to study poker by playing against George. George plays perfect poker based on our many game theory optimal solutions. George will rate your play and provide you with tools that can help you understand how to improve your game. How does it work? First, you're presented with two options. You can either click Start Training, which will get you started immediately based on your previous settings. If it's your first time, it will be our default settings. The other option is to click Select Scenario. When you click Select Scenario, you get many different options. You can choose between GVV, ICM, or Heads Up. GVV refers to the stage of the tournament where you're just trying to accumulate as many chips as possible. A day one of a tournament as an example. If you choose GVV and click Preflop, you'll practice preflop simulations. Here you can select the stack depth you want to train and what position you want to play. If you choose Surprise Me, you'll just get random positions and stack depths each hand. If you click Post Flop, you'll start the hand from the flop. Here you can also select what stack depth you want to play, what position you want to play as and against, and whether or not you want to play a single raise pot or a 3-bet pot. If you click Complete Hand, you'll start the hand pre-flop and go post-flop whenever it's possible. Surprise Me just alternates between all the different GVV options. If we go back up and select ICM, we have the option between Final Table, ICM 25 and 50. ICM 50 means half the field is out of the tournament, and ICM 25 refers to simulations where just 25% of the field remain. This way you can get a better understanding of how to play as you approach the money bubble. These type of simulations are referred to as soft ICM sims. I'll leave a link in the description to an article that goes in depth with explaining how they work and their advantages and shortcomings. When you select Final Table, you'll play hands from real live streamed Final Table setups. I'll get back to this later. You can both play pre-flop and post-flop Final Table spots. Finally, Heads Up allows you to practice the very last stage of the tournament, when only 2 players remain. Alright, let me show you how it looks when you're actually playing the trainer. So let's click GVV, Complete Hand, and let's leave the Surprise Me settings on. And here we go. So this is the first hand we see. We have 7-6 offsuit, we're in the big blind, and we face an open from the low jack. Now we see that everyone at the table has 30 big blinds, we're at an 8-handed table, and we can also see what spot we're playing at the top left, so big blind at 30 big blinds. Down here we see what options we're presented with. We can go for a fold, we can make the call, we can go for a non-all-in raise to 8 big blinds, or we can go all in. So I think in this situation, I want to go for a call. So let's see. Now here we go. So the flop is Jack 10-8 two-toned. And we have 7-6, so not the best flop in the world. We can go for a lead shove, but I think we just want to be checking. One cool feature is you're able to see the correct preflop range after you've made your preflop decision. So if we click My Profile here, a small mini range will pop up, and this will show you how we were supposed to play. So we can see that 7-6 offsuit is well within the calling range, and we see that 7-6 offsuit was not mixing any raises or all-ins. Now we can also see what range the low jack should have opened, and we see all the hands in yellow, those are the hands the low jack is playing, and the ones in gray are the ones the low jack is supposed to be folding. So on this flop we have a terrible gut shot, right? We can hit the 9, but then they make a straight on the queen, so we have a terrible hand. We'll go for a check, and we see it says perfect, so checking was the right option. Now let's just fold, and folding is the right option, and we get to see what the low jack had. So over here we have some cool analysis tools. You can see that 2 bars, and some of these bars are highlighted with a white box. So every time the bars are highlighted by a white box, that means this information refers to one of your decisions. This is our flop strategy. We can see up here, this is what our range is supposed to play on average. You can see it's 100% green, so we're supposed to go for a range check. And we can also see what our hand is supposed to be doing. It's just supposed to check 100% of the time as well. Down here we see the EVs of the different decisions with our hand. Checking has an EV of 0, and that's the best play, because if we were to lead or lead shove, we'd be losing roughly half a big blind or 5 big blinds outright. We see the EV is in big blinds. Now this is the low jack strategy. If we hover over the bars, we see a small range pop up, and this shows how the low jack is supposed to be playing. So in this case, the low jack has a very easy strategy. The low jack is just supposed to c-bet small, 25%, 100% of the time. Now this is our response against the small c-bet. And we see the top bar represents our overall strategy with our range. So 46% of the time we're supposed to be folding, 37% of the time we're supposed to call, and then we have some raises and so on. Now the bottom bar again represents what we're supposed to do with our hand. And you see it's completely gray, which means we're just supposed to fold. Now let's play one more hand. So we have King Jack of Hearts, pretty decent hand. Under the gun 8 goes for an open to 2.3 big blinds, and we again have several different options here. We can fold, we can call, we can go for a non-all-in 3-bet, or we can go for an all-in shove. So in this case, I really don't like to get shoved on if we go for this 3-bet, so I would prefer just to call. Obviously the hand is too strong to fold, so I think call is the clear option. And it looks like we made the right decision. It says this is what our range is supposed to do, folding 83% of the time, calling 11% of the time, and going for a couple non-all-in 3-bets. Now with our hand specifically, we're just supposed to call all the time. And once again we see the EVs underneath. Calling has a slightly higher EV than going for a non-all-in 3-bet, and going for a shove is a highly losing play. Now again we can see a little overview of the 3-betting range. So King Jack, it's a little bit too strong to 3-bet, but if we had a hand like King 10 suited or King 9 suited, we could go for a 3-bet bluff, and we wouldn't be crying if our opponent went all in. Let's check what under the gun was supposed to open. Looks like Ace 3 suited plus, Ace 10 offsuit plus, 5 plus, and then it's mixing with a couple suited connectors. And we can also click on some of the folded players. Let's say we want to know what the big blind is supposed to defend against under the gun 8 open, our cutoff call. We can see this is the big blind strategy against what happened here. So under the gun goes for this small 25% c-bet. Now we don't have a strong hand, however it's a very good price. We have some backdoor flush draw outs, we have some backdoor straight draw outs, and we're in position, so we might get an opportunity to bluff later. So I will go for call. Okay, so we see I did make the right play, however, look at this bar over here. I'm only supposed to call 18% of the time. So this was a very marginal decision. To the left, we see the little session overview. We can see how many perfect decisions we've made so far. It says 5. And if we happen to make a mistake, this little number will count up. And if we make a big mistake, we call it a blunder, we'll get a 1 here instead of a 0. Up here we have the overall EV loss. So every time you make a mistake, this number will go up. So I think the clear option here is to call out with our flush draw even against this big bet. But just for the sake of this video, let's see what happens when we make a mistake. So I'll go for a fold. Now it says blunder, so the trainer wasn't thrilled about this play. We see it says 1 here, and the EV loss is 1.329% of the pot. So we get an option to try again now. Okay, I'll go for what I think is the right play, which is call. Here we see the different EVs again, and now under the gun goes for a half pot bet. We didn't hit our flush draw, so let's just fold. And they win with a set. If we're curious about any of the actions that happened, we can scroll up and start from the flop. So this is under the gun. This is how under the gun is supposed to play on the flop. So we see under the gun had an option for a bigger c-bet. However, the solver just prefers a small c-bet or check. We can see the range is c-betting 60% of the time and checking 40% of the time. But since Under the Gun had pocket fives, we see pocket fives want to mostly be betting. Here we have our strategy. Now on the turn, Under the Gun is supposed to be checking quite a lot with their range. However, pocket fives, which is a great hand, is just supposed to always bet. Well, pocket fives with those suits. Then on the river, yes, they're supposed to go for this half pot bet half the time. If we want to look at any of the previous hand we've played in this session, in this case there's only a single one, we can click review here to go back to that hand. And if we want to go more in depth with the post-flop analysis, we can click here to review post-flop, which will bring up a much more advanced post-flop viewer. So in this one, we can see how the different suits are supposed to play, we can see the range compositions and so much more. Now we can click back, we can go and see the pre-flop viewer. We can see the Under the Gun opening range and we can see our response. Now we can play around, well, what if hijack opened instead of Under the Gun? Now this is how our range is supposed to look. Down here you can turn sound effects on and off, and up here you can adjust all our different settings. Now if you thought the animation was a bit too fast, you can reduce it. If you thought the animations were a bit too slow, you can increase them. Alright, I think I covered most of our features. Hopefully you'll try the train out, and yeah, good luck.